I'm Claire Parker.
And I'm Ashley Hamilton. And this is Celebrity Memoir Book Club, the podcast where we look at things from one side and then we say, there's got to be a better side. And so we explain the good side. And if you want to read the whole thing, the whole 360, you can do that yourself. But if you want to know our side, keep listening.
You guys, today we're doing Scheana Shay. I can't even do a normal intro. It's so crazy. And I know everybody's been waiting for this book. I'm so excited. But before we get into it, Ashley Hamilton, co-host of my life. Do you have anything you'd like to recommend? Anything you'd like to share with the class?
Oh my God. Okay. My recommendation for this week is the movie Sorry Baby. I talked about it on the Patreon last week, but it really is just like a great movie. I really recommend it to anyone who's looking to see a movie. If you say, why is it that people in movies don't talk like humans anymore? Go see a really pleasant movie about people. Anyway, if I were to title my chapter from last week, I would call it Awareness is for Suckers.
Okay.
Stay blind, baby.
Sure. Okay, Scheana Shay. That's literally like the message of this book, but
I don't remember where I told this story recently, but I was involved in a bit of a situation in the street where I waved at a friend and then someone else in front of them thought I was waving at them. So then he waved to me and said hello. I have been trying to not be on my phone when I walk around. I'm trying to have an awareness in the world. It's backfired immensely. I have run into someone that I went on one date with thrice. Okay? Thrice.
Okay. Are you sure he's not your person?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, I think the universe says otherwise. Maybe he's meant to be your best friend.
And I have twice been in the middle guy situation of a waving incident where I thought I was being waved at. And I got to just look down at the ground again. I got to go back to the ground, to my phone, to something. Having an awareness of the world is actually so upsetting. The other day I was walking down the street and this woman who looked probably early 40s. So I was like, maybe we know each other. She was like, look at you. And I was wearing a really cute outfit. So I was like, look at me. And then her son was scootering by.
That happened. There was a weekend where that happened to me 3 times in a row where I kept saying thank you to compliments that were absolutely not for me. Can I tell you my big suggestion to you, my recommendation to you? Sunglasses.
Oh.
You need full tint sunglasses because I love to get on a subway and just stare at everybody right in the face. I like to see their outfits. I like to see their cheekbones. I like to see their eye color. I like to look at what people are reading. I like to, you know what I mean? I want to be able to stare.
But what about when they talk to the person behind you and they say, look at you, and you go, look at me. Oh, someone else?
Can I tell you something?
Okay.
When you're staring directly at them, it's actually quite easy to see where their eyes are looking.
That's fair.
And then the one downside is when you forget to wear sunglasses and you're of the habit of staring at ogling hotties and you're just boring into their soul and you go, oh, we're making full eye contact. They caught
your
me.
eyes are up here. Okay.
Okay. And my eyes are on display. But I love it. Listen, you got a hat on, sunglasses on.
Wow.
It's as good as being incognito.
Very Mary-Kate and Ashley sleuthing.
Yeah.
Okay. What about your recommendations for the week?
I watched the documentary My Mom Jane on HBO. I talked about it on the Patreon last week. I really thought it was phenomenal. If you know anything about me, sometimes I get a bit sick of the love letter to Hollywood genre.
Mm-hmm. You feel quite famously that Hollywood's gotten enough love letters.
I think, it can feel pretty good about itself. I think it's gotten a lot of credit over the years. And much like teachers and nurses, maybe they're a little too sung.
We can stop clapping every evening. Thank you very much.
When do I get to stop clapping?
At 7 o'clock, I'm clapping for the nurses. At 8 o'clock, I'm clapping for the stars. At 10 o'clock.
I'm just bonging pots and pans every day, up and down. They think I'm nutso, but I'm just showing gratitude. Can a little lady show some gratitude? Anyway, My Mom Jane was not a love letter to Hollywood, honestly. It was an I hate you letter to my mom.
Oh.
It was a really interesting story about growing up in the shadow of this famous woman because her mom died. Jane Mansfield died tragically in a car accident.
Spoiler alert.
When I keep wanting to call her Luann de Lesseps. It's not. It's Mariska Hargitay. When Mariska Hargitay was 3. And because Jane Mansfield died, kind of a sex symbol who had maybe fallen off of the public favor and was struggling in abusive relationships and struggling with alcohol. The stories about her, all the biographies and the the rumors were not very nice. And so she was raised by her father, who said, do not read about your mom. And she kind of was left feeling overshadowed and resentful of like this caricature that like, she existed up against. And so now she's like in her 60s and she decided, I really want to like get to know my mother better. And in it, she finds grace for a woman who was a young woman maligned by Hollywood and like what fame does. And I think it's very timely, as it always is, because Me Too, You Too, they'll never treat a woman right. Like we'll never learn. Well, Amber heard them all, but it was really well done. And
I listened to women. I heard them.
I heard them up so I can call them sluts.
Amber heard them.
Yeah, I thought it was just really beautifully done. And of course, it is so fun to look at the old Hollywood photos. I really got sucked in. I was like, dang, those are some bazungas and you know they're real. It's fun to look at all the photos and there were like twists and turns. I can't
wait till those boobs come back. Back into style.
I can't wait. Yeah. When will big-breasted ladies get their day?
There's an angle of breast that we're not doing right now.
Yeah, the canonical.
I feel like
the cone.
The cone.
Canonically, they were cone-shaped, and I want to bring that back.
That's what I'm saying.
I want to look at you and see two giant candy corns on your chest, staring me dead in the eyes. My sunglassed eyes, so you can't tell where I'm
trying to make eye contact with something.
With something pointy. Okay. Should we get into this book? Or did we have anything else to talk about?
No.
We just hope you're having a really good summer.
Yeah.
Summer moon.
Okay, this book is stress-inducing. Has there ever been this much eyelash on the cover of one of our memoirs? They're like fans.
You know what I like about this photo of her on the cover is that it's her lying in a plush rug up against a mirror. So you get two images of her. She really did figure out a way to show you her good side twice.
My Good Side, a memoir by Scheana Shay. So as you guys may or may not know, Scheana Shay is the reality star
from Vanderpump Rules.
11 seasons of Vanderpump Rules.
Who was most affected by Scandoval.
Exactly.
If you're reading this book, you've probably seen a very specific side of me. Maybe it's the 20-something-year-old girl in the tabloids with John Mayer. Or maybe it's a 26-year-old girl being picked on at her news serving gig. Maybe you've seen me as a loyal friend, a bad friend, or a pick-me. Maybe you've followed my motherhood journey. Maybe you cheered for the downfall of my first marriage or cried happy tears with me at my second wedding.
Even throughout my 11 seasons on VPR, there was so much more to me than 43-minute episodes capture. I was betrayed by those closest to me, endured a divorce, got married to a second man twice, suffered a miscarriage, nearly died during childbirth, and lived through a major cheating scandal among my best friends, a scandal that reverberated across the globe. I also experienced something no woman should ever have to go through with her significant other, something I haven't shared with my inner circle, much less the whole world, until now. I will say most of those things are actually things the 43-minute episodes have
I will also
portrayed.
say my feeling of Scheana Shay was only compounded. I was like, okay, and I was exactly right. So let's get into it. If there's one thing that you should know about me, it's that I've never been a follower.
Okay.
I've always been a person who forges her own path.
I actually forgot that this was the first line in the book, and we're going to need to return to it at the end.
But I'm also a natural people pleaser, and there have been times in my life that I felt pressure to fit in order to survive. So that's kind of the internal conflict of her is that, you know, she's not a follower.
She doesn't follow you. She does whatever you want her to do in order to please you. She's not following. She's listening.
I guess my new crusade is being like, we have to figure out another phrase that's not people pleaser, because she really thinks of herself as a people pleaser. And yet I've never seen somebody who people dislike so much. I am like, it would be pleasing to everyone if you actually got a personality and a slight backbone. I think you would do better.
Yeah.
Because nobody can stand you. So who are you pleasing?
I think to operate from any conviction is like much more pleasing to other people.
Yeah, I think again, it's like, I would just describe Scheana as a self-denier and a society chaser. I think wanting to be perceived as perfect is actually so different than being a people pleaser.
Yeah. I also wouldn't even call her conflict avoidant, because I feel like she enjoys a certain level of conflict because it's like
her job.
And
attention.
Yeah. Anyway, so she gets into her early life. She has a spark that made her want to be an actress for a long time. Her mom got pregnant with her when her mom was quite young and dating around a bit. Her dad is a guy named Raul, who is Mexican-American.
And a DJ in Vegas. Famously the perfect kind of father.
Explains a lot. And then her mom was also dating this guy named Ron. Ron was like, I'm going to raise this baby as my own. She says, I don't think having a baby or being a full-time father was really on Raul's bingo card, even though he was happy to be involved from the sidelines. One paragraph later, Raul didn't officially meet me until I was 2. Listen, I think that she had the life that worked out best. Like, I think her mom put together the best life for her, and Ron raised her as her own. Like, everything was fine. But the way that she like really stands by this thing of like, Raul was the best dad he could be by not being my dad, actually.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
And listen, what a pattern it would set. Later, in her current husband, she'd be like, sometimes the best dad a man can be is not a dad at all. I've seen it with my own father. How could I say I had a perfect biological father who refused to really hang out with me if I didn't believe that was true for Brock?
Raul took a major step back to allow Ron to be the ever-present father I needed. You know how it is when a dad says, actually, the best thing for you is to not know me. And that's like correct.
Actually, her great aunt was on the original League of Her Own team, which was really inspiring to Scheana. So she played baseball when she was little with the boys. And she was really grateful that she was allowed to try out and made the team. And she goes, it just proves that gender doesn't really matter at that age.
Oh,
but it really matters later. Overall, my early childhood was happy. I loved my parents, was doing well on the stage and on the field, and school was easy for me. So she actually ends up skipping a grade. And she's like, this put me at a disadvantage because all the kids were older and I felt I like lost my friends and then I started getting bullied. Skipping a grade is such a funny thing to do.
Yeah. Because like she's obviously not smart. I'm just like, so she read faster than the other kids. Like also, let her like school's about socializing kids correctly.
Also, just the idea of skipping a second or third grader. Like I know that that's when it happens normally, those early years. And have you ever played Tetris? You know, at the beginning when it's so easy and you're like, oh, I wish this would speed up because it's so easy.
Yeah.
And then it like the minute it speeds up, you're like, well, now it's too fast. Like I am like, school gets harder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if it's not school, it'll be life. Like, don't worry. The things around you will get harder. There's no reason to like amp them up.
You know, when there's like random genius kids in high school, I don't know if they did this at your school because it wasn't a public school, but like sometimes they'll have like a random freshman taking like senior classes and then they graduate early and go to college early. And I'm like, I guess that's when you can tell that they're actually smarter than everybody else.
Wait till things even out. You know what's so funny? You know the big difference between private and public school? In public school, they'll let you skip a grade up. And in private school, they're like, have you thought about doing this again?
Yeah.
We really think we could give you a competitive advantage if you had like a full 2 years on everyone else.
That's so true. In private school, they're like, if you don't do extra tuitions, then you haven't really learned everything.
I remember there was this girl who did it in my grade. She was a grade above and then she just redid the grade. And she was in all honors classes the next year. And she really acted like that meant something. And I was like, well, yeah, because you did all the classes already. You actually only went up half a grade.
So Scheana is from Azusa. She was raised in Azusa, which
California.
Is a little bit outside of LA. And it's a very Mexican area. And for a while growing up, she felt othered because her mom and Ron were both like white, blonde people. So she looked different than them. Then going to school in Azusa, she was the only one who wasn't like full Mexican. And so she felt other having white parents.
And she got bullied in middle school. She would get like pages on her pager that said die host. She said sometimes people would pass her notes in class being like, I'm going to kill you, bitch.
I mean, she was like legit bullied. She and Jessica Simpson are like two of the only properly bullied people on the planet.
And she's like, I grew up in a town with gangs. Like there was gang violence and people died. So they didn't seem like empty threats. She's like, I didn't feel like they were going to kill me that day. But the idea that there was violence being threatened around you in a town where there was violence happening, it was scary.
She didn't want to tell her parents because she didn't want to like upset and disturb them. She felt like her relationship with them was like to be the perfect child. And because her mom around this time, they were trying to have another child and her mom had a miscarriage, she didn't want to stress her parents out and she didn't want to like be the cause of more health problems for her mom. She really internalized everyone else's problems. I think this is where her believing that she's a people pleaser comes from. And she really wants another sister. So then her mom does get pregnant again. She does have a healthy pregnancy. And so when Scheana's 12, she gets a younger sister, Courtney. And then Scheana internalizes this thing of like, well, my dad isn't my real dad and Courtney is their full child. So if I'm not perfect, then like they won't even want me to really be part of the family anymore. So she never really tells her parents about her problems because she doesn't want to like give them a reason to ostracize her.
This is explained in about a paragraph. And I am like, well, let's get into that, Scheana, because you do have like a freakish amount of need in your soul. Like you are somebody who's so desperate for external validation in a way
that—
If
I were to describe her face in one word, it would be pleading.
Like her whole existence is just really like, how little can I expect and accept from people? And the rest of this book is all about like where she's searching for validation. And she's so funny because she's like kind of dumb. Not kind of. So dumb.
So she reminds me so much of Denise Richards, where I'm like, you are so sweet. I wish anyone was nice to you.
Can I say I don't even feel that Scheana's sweet? I don't know. She doesn't do it for me, really.
I guess I think she would have been sweet. I don't think she means harm.
No, but I also think that sometimes you're so self-absorbed that you cause harm.
Yes, that's fair.
Do you know what I mean? You don't mean to do harm when you're doing your makeup in your car mirror, but if you're like driving down the street and you get into an accident, you're doing your makeup instead of watching out for other people's lives.
Sure.
Anyway, but I think she could really look into this, into where these insecurities stem from. She's one of those people, there's so many celebrities that we read about that like eventually go to therapy, but never just normal therapy. They're like, I did this therapy where you take a bat and you smack all of your insecurities that you've written down on pottery and it's free. And I'm just like, can't you just talk to somebody so they could like help you through it in a normal way?
Yeah, like there is a problem here. And I do think it's something you could work out with your words.
I've worked it out with my words. I've worked out your problems with my words. Anyway. So she doesn't really get into it too deeply, but that also made her feel insecure. And so she just talks about how in middle school, like at one point, it finally culminated with this one specific bully in a physical fist fight. And she said after that, they kind of left each other alone. But sometimes you just got to take out your earrings and come to blows.
She says it's the only black eye she's ever given anyone.
She never told her parents about the problems, but she's like, I wonder if they knew, because for high school, they switched me to an all-girls Catholic school. She shows up the first day in Dickies because
that's what it was cool to wear at the other school.
That's what she thought it was cool. And she said also her mom didn't make a ton of money and the uniforms were expensive. They were already paying tuition. So she didn't want to have to ask her too much. Of course, my luck. There was not a single other girl at the school in pants. I stuck out in all the wrong ways again. My lips were overlined and my eyebrows were still plucked too thin. That day, I went home to my mom and asked her to buy me all 5 skirts, the button-up shirts, and the matching vest and the knee-high socks. Budget be damned.
So she gets her driver's license when she's 16 and she gets a job at a Ralph's grocery store. But then she gets fired because she's like too pretty.
She said she's distracting all the boys. And I am like, I understand it's very flattering to be like, I was so pretty. They couldn't even have me bagging groceries. But I am like, I don't know. I also believe that you were like talking to everybody. You know what I mean?
She goes, and it led me to a new industry, restaurants.
Meanwhile, she's obsessed with getting into Hollywood. So she's always trying to hang around. She ends up being a seat filler for the VMAs and she gets in trouble for taking a photo of someone.
She's working at a country club and one of the members works at MTV. So she gets to be an extra in the Wade Robson project.
She goes, it was really useful as a stepping stone because I was able to be an extra in the Wade Robson project. Okay, that's not, I don't think you need connections to do that.
I think you just sign up to be an extra. However,
I was an extra in $1 Million Matchmaker, but my scene got cut.
I was an extra in Will and Kate, A Royal Love Story on the Lifetime Network.
Was your scene?
No, it's in there.
You can find yourself?
Yeah, for like but a second.
Oh my God. Wormies. I think your homework has been assigned.
Get sleuthin'. Okay, so she goes to get a job at Hooters and the manager was like, you just have to come back tonight and try on the uniform. And if you look good in it, the job is yours. So she comes back, she tries on the uniform. She's like, this is definitely fucking weird. But then he goes, yeah, you've got the job. When Hooters opens in a couple months, I'll call you. She gets contacted a couple months later by the authorities. It turns out this man has been making women try on Hooters uniforms and filming them. And they were wondering if she would testify about her experience. And she becomes kind of the face of this lawsuit. She has this whole explanation for it. She's like, I was studying like media and journalism. So it was really helpful for me to have experience in front of the cameras.
Before I knew it, I was dubbed one of the Hooters girls. I was flown across the country to do interviews and appear on national TV shows like Maury, The Big Idea with Donnie Deutsch, and The Early Show.
It's very brave of her to have gotten up and talked about it like that, but it is funny that she's like, I was able to apply what I learned in class.
And more than that, she was like excited to be on TV.
Yeah.
She was like, of course I'll do it. I would love the publicity. The news coverage was on CNN and all over the newspapers, and I was proud to do it, proud to speak up on behalf of the girls and women who had something so terrible happen to them. They were camera shy in general, embarrassed about what would happen to them. Still, there was another layer to these appearances, one that already complicated an already totally fucked up situation. I'd always dreamed of being on TV. But not because some asshole who'd taken advantage of me. I hoped it would be because of my talent as an actress.
Anyway, Juan actually does get sentenced to 5 years in prison, which is awesome. Good for her. Good for them.
And she talks about feeling a lot of shame and worry about the backlash. Like, what if she gets kicked out of her Catholic school? She went to an evangelical college and she's like, what if they kick me out? What if people say I deserved it?
And people did. There was like people saying, you know, that's what you get for like wanting to work at Hooters.
And she had said she felt a lot of shame because she had said that working at Hooters was considered a status symbol and was a form of validation that I sought growing up. It was kind of like landing a job at Abercrombie & Fitch where everyone looked like a model. She also has a lot of guilt because in high school, she dated this guy a little older than her. And when he was at the fire academy, she cheated on him. And that's something that's haunted her ever since.
Yeah. She's like a big believer in karma, but not really.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when something bad happens, she goes, well, maybe it's my karma.
So after she goes to Azusa and graduates, she moves to Hollywood to try to pursue her dream of becoming a television host, specifically an MTV VJ.
Can I say, who among us hasn't moved to Hollywood to become an MTV VJ?
So one of the things about Scheana is she does experience a lot of death. She has a lot of family members die in quick succession. And then she has 2 close friends die growing up, which is sad. And I think like not everybody has that. Like I feel like I have not had people I know really die close to me growing up. And she thinks that contributes a lot to her OCD and her anxiety is like this idea that death is always kind of just around the corner. So one of her best friends from middle school, Gina, dies. Unfortunately, we went to different high schools and I imagine the bullying wouldn't have happened if I had her by my side. She would have kept those girls in check. It's so like she didn't die before middle school. Like, yeah, it's so funny to be like, it's so sad she died because think about how she could have helped me.
She was alive then. Anyway, so she moves to LA with one of her friends who helps her get a job at this private members only cigar lounge / restaurant where she meets a lot of celebrities, a lot of famous clientele at this cigar lounge / restaurant. And she starts dating someone who specifically was not a member, but was a frequent guest of members, Eddie Cibrian.
That's how I'm saying it. If it's wrong, who cares? He's literally the least important man in the world.
He's the most important man in our memoir.
He's like the
mountain.
Dave Foster's of duds. He's like associated to so many women I know.
That's so true.
He's like, what if David Foster had actually 0 Grammys or talent, but truly a beautiful face?
A really gorgeous, much more beautiful face than David Foster. Anyway, so Eddie was the sweetest, funniest, most charismatic gentleman I'd ever met. And he wasn't wearing a ring. And so how could she have known he was married? She goes, we didn't have internet on our phones back then. I only went on the internet when I'd go to like a Wi-Fi cafe to check for auditions. And I wasn't Googling him. That's just not what you did, really. She really maintains innocence.
I was just happy to be the girl working the poker game he played in. That's a really sad thing to be.
Of course, I've been asked a zillion times why I didn't realize he was married. Why would I have thought he was? It never even crossed my mind.
The frightening thing is I totally thought I could end up with Eddie. He looked how I'd always imagined my future husband would look, and he treated me well.
But she's 21 years old. She doesn't want to be tied down, so she keeps dating other people, including Desperate Housewives' Jesse Metcalfe, also ex of another former memoirist, Courtney Robertson.
Wow. So Jesse Metcalfe and her met right before he went to rehab. And when he got out there, she was waiting for him. And she was totally down just to hang out with him and his mom because like they were playing it casual. It didn't even matter. And they had a lot of fun. And he was so nice to her. And she would stop drinking. She wouldn't even go out a lot because she didn't want to bring him near someone drinking.
She really specifies like when she is and isn't exclusive with people because I think it is very important to her to clarify cheating. And so her and Jesse Metcalfe kind of, you know, fizzle out after he buys her Marc Jacobs sunglasses for her birthday. He takes her to Neiman Marcus and says she can have whatever she wants. Anyway.
She says, it felt like I was living a real life fantasy with this guy I'd watched on TV and in movies for years. When she had watched John Tucker Must Die, she used to think to herself, wouldn't it be fun to date that guy? And then guess what? She got to do it.
Yay.
Scheana Shay has lived so many of her dreams.
So anyway, she fizzles out with Jesse Metcalfe and Eddie comes churning back around and they start dating again. They're not exclusive, which is so important. The first crack in Eddie's perfectly constructed facade appeared one night at the cigar lounge when one of the members approached me. He said, listen, Eddie's coming in tonight, and I just want to let you know before you do something you might regret, I heard he's married. First of all, he is married. Like,
he's married and famous. Like, he is a famous man with a model wife, and they go out to events together. It's not that hard to find out if he's married or not.
It's not that hard.
And when somebody straight up tells you he's married...
I didn't believe it, or maybe I didn't want to believe it. I was wild about Eddie. And again, we were out together all the time in public, so I didn't feel like some secret mistress. So she asks him, are you married?
No.
She says, don't. She goes, shouldn't you have something on your finger? And he's like, what are you talking about?
She said, I have to ask, before we hang out tonight, does something belong on your ring finger? I didn't want to come across as aggressive or have him think I was acting crazy since I didn't know if it was true. And also because my inherent people-pleasing tendencies were in full force. So I decided to choose pleasant and palatable, even a little playful over direct and confrontational. Totally. She's like, asking someone if they're married just felt so rude, especially after we've been sleeping together.
So then she sees the cover of a tabloid that is announcing Eddie and his wife, Brandi Glanville, are expecting another child together. And so she calls him and she goes, wait, so you are married?
But he apologizes and says, no, we're getting separate and I want to be with you. And then she goes, okay. He sounds so sad. I'll give him another chance.
I reconfirmed that he was separated from Brandi. When he said yes, I agreed to give us another go, and we started hanging out again towards the end of 2008. So at this point, it's been like 2 years on and off. Then they're on like a mountain getaway, and she sees Leanne Rimes calling, and she's like, oh my God, how do you know Leanne Rimes? And he's like, oh, she's just my friend. We just did a movie together. A few weeks later, he's supposed to be coming over, and a friend of Eddie's calls Scheana and goes, hey, Eddie's not going to be able to make it tonight. The next day, a story breaks in Us Weekly that Eddie has been having an affair with Leanne Rimes, and they like never really talk again. I think that she like calls him to be like, what the fuck?
I was so furious. I vowed never to speak to Eddie again for the second time. I mean, of course, at this point, it was much easier to uphold because he stopped talking to you because you weren't even his first mistress. It wasn't just that I felt betrayed, even if that was part of it. It brought me back to cheating on the boyfriend I had throughout high school and college. Even as a 16-year-old girl, I felt gross and ashamed to disrespect someone that way. I knew that I'd never be unfaithful again. So when the news came out of exposing Eddie for stepping out on Brandi with Leanne, I felt like, oh my God, how can you be cheating on your wife with not one but two women?
I mean, she thought that this was a significant relationship in her life. She and Eddie were together on and off for 2 years. She has a photo of them in this book. I think he's like one of her great loves. And in Brandi's book, she's like, I don't know, Eddie was cheating on me with Leanne Rimes and probably a cocktail waitress.
And obviously other people. That's the thing is, it was like wifey, girlfriend, mistress.
But like Scheana is sitting here being like, I'm going to marry this man. And in everyone else's story, Scheana is unnamed cocktail waitress number 6.
The craziest thing Scheana does in this book, that's not true. There's a couple of really unhinged things.
There is a photo of her and Eddie.
With the caption, one of the most fun things Eddie and I would do together was take his boat out with his friends. The only ring in that boat was a life preserver. So word to the wise, ladies, if a man tells you he's separated, don't believe him. It's like a photo of them hugging, looking so happy. That's crazy. That's crazy, Scheana. You've been married twice. You can't give this man so much airtime.
It's also just insane because she, throughout this entire book, clings to the fact that she never knew he was married. So later when she's in a situation with Brandi, later when she's like talking about another cheating situation, she's talking about Scandoval. Like there's a lot of cheating in this book, and she always talks about how it felt being the other woman, but she didn't know. And I'm like, you had to have guessed then.
Well, someone told you.
Someone told you. You had the internet. I'm sorry. It's not like the internet didn't exist. It's just that you didn't have it on your phone. Like go home and Google.
Don't believe
What do you mean you're dating a celebrity and you didn't Google him?
I was so infatuated with him and I wanted to be loved and validated so badly that I blocked out the fact that he was a total piece of shit. I felt like a fool for believing him and couldn't comprehend why he'd lie to me if he actually cared about me. That's what I mean when I'm like, that's not people pleasing. That's like denial. That's delusion.
Anyway, so then one of her friends tells the tabloids that Eddie had slept with Scheana after the Leanne news broke. And here's the thing. So then it becomes this whole shitstorm where they're like, and now he's cheating on Leanne with this cocktail waitress. He was cheating on Leanne with this cocktail waitress. It just, he and Scheana never got together after the news broke.
Because I guess like, he had to pick one. He had to be like, no, this isn't just cheating. This is true love. And someone's gotten in the way of my true love, and that's my pregnant wife.
But they were like in the mountains together while Leanne was calling him, presumably after the affair started. Yeah. Like he was with Leanne, then Scheana, then Brandi, then Scheana, then Leanne.
Plus others. Plus unnamed cocktail waitress 1 through 12.
Plus we don't know what was happening on Thursdays. This book never specifies a Thursday.
What we know for sure is Tuesday evening, he fucked Scheana. There's like so many other parts of so many other days of the week.
They always hung out on Tuesdays after he would come to the cigar bar. He would hook up with Scheana. And she's like, how could he have been married? Don't married people have other things to do on Tuesdays?
At 4 a.m.
I don't know, man. So then she has to go sign like a document at a lawyer's office. Because I guess Leanne was like, promise me you never cheated on me. And it's like, Leanne, now you look like an idiot. Anyway.
Hey, they're still together.
So I guess she doesn't look like such an idiot. Who's laughing now?
Tori Spelling taught me anything is that a long relationship that looks like shit the whole time is actually sometimes just as bad on the outside as the inside.
As long as you don't go inside and scrub the walls for baked potatoes, you have no way of knowing if anything bad's happening. I've been asked many times if I regret my relationship with Eddie. Honestly, it's hard to beat yourself up about dating a married man when you didn't know he was married. He lied to me repeatedly. Dude, you can't win this one with me.
Fortunately, I found a way to distract myself from the whole Eddie situation by going to John Mayer's house for some fun.
So she dates John Mayer for 6 months. They were never seen together publicly.
It turns out there was Eddie and John overlap. And I was saying that, Ashley, don't you think that'd be the worst time to know Scheana Shay? When she's dating both John Mayer and Eddie. And by dating, I mean fucking whenever they want. Fucking according to their schedule.
This was right after John Mayer had broken up with Jennifer Aniston.
I love this. John and I didn't see each other every day. Yeah, I know.
I did not think you did.
But we talked on the phone a fair amount. This was shocking to me until I read, because I was like, what does he want to talk to Scheana Shay about? And then I finished the sentence. He seemed really into phone sex. Which was a first for me and a little awkward, but I was willing to do whatever he wanted. And I was like, okay, actually, everything you're saying checks out.
Oh my God. Her and John broke up because the news about them being together was leaked to the press. And she got fired from her job at the cigar lounge for being involved with a member. And so she's like pissed off that she got kind of like eaten alive by this whole situation. She's like, what do you mean now I'm not fucking John Mayer and I have no job?
At that point, I was so fed up being used by men that I decided to do an interview about him. I could at least set the record straight on the tabloid reporting about us. I mean, Scheana.
Nobody cares who you are, Scheana.
Also used by men. What?
Okay, can I tell
Not
you?
Not to be slut-shamey, but can a sponge be used by a dishwasher? Do you know what I mean? Like, if what you want on earth more than anything is to fuck a celebrity and so they fuck you, is that being used?
At this point, I'm like, what do you mean you had to set the record straight? With Eddie, you were cocktail waitress number 7. And with John, you were cocktail waitress number 12. No one knows it's the same girl playing both roles. Like, no one recognized.
I had to set the record straight. No, you didn't. But God bless it. You wanted the attention and you got your attention. And I hope you're happy.
Okay, this is crazy, though. Can I say, she has some real butterfly effects where I'm like, no, it's fair that you call that. Because she got fired from her job at the cigar lounge, she started working at Villa Blanca.
I will say she has a lot of silver linings of terrible rainstorms. And I do think that that's the Scheana Shay mentality of like when you're shameless and willing to do anything for attention, that energy gets found.
Sometimes something good happens when you fuck John Mayer.
If you're a really pretty girl who has no bottom to what you're willing to do for attention and fame, you will be on reality TV if you give it long enough. So she moves into her own apartment. It's the first time she's living on her own. She's decided she needs privacy after the whole John and Eddie thing. Basically, I guess she's like, if I'm going to fuck another married celebrity, I need to have a safe place to take them.
Oh my God. She starts dating this guy named Colin and she likes that he's like a regular guy, not a famous guy. I said to myself, okay, Scheana, you've tried dating or at least hanging out with and hooking up with all of these celebrities. Jesse Metcalfe, Eddie Cibrian, John Mayer, Shamar Moore, Josh Hopkins, Shane West, Jesse McCartney, JC Chazé, Adrian Grenier, Ricardo Shavira, William Tell, and 2 actors from The Notebook and a few NFL, NBA, and MLB players to name a few. And that's not really working out. It's time to switch things up and date someone who's under the radar. William Tell, Lauren's husband? The lawyer?
JC Chazé.
The lawyer from something corporate?
I have
Josh
to say,
Hopkins from Cougar Town?
I really had a moment where I said, what was Scheana thinking when she listed every celebrity? Like, how in her mind is she justifying this as like an okay way to exist as a human being? As someone who just sits and lists famous people that they've fucked. But I guess, okay, here's how I imagine it went down in the writer's room.
Which 2 actors from The Notebook? Wait, what is Shane West not in The Notebook?
2 more actors. 2 more actors from The Notebook. Anyway, I think what she would say is she's like, well, I want my book to sell. And what people want to know is the dishy gossip of all the celebs I'm willing to kiss and tell. And I bet she said, put that in there. It'll really make this a juicy, dirty memoir. And I'm still like, unfortunately, I think you actually are more famous than these people. And it does just look insane. Like, it looks insane to just be like, here's everyone I fucked. Impressed. I bet you think I'm really beautiful and lovable now, huh?
It's just so crazy because all of these people are people with, like, I think sex addictions. Like, famously.
I also love like how hard she works to be the cool girl. And I'm like, don't worry, they don't care.
And they don't think you are.
You don't have to play it cool. They just won't call you back. It's not a really, ball was never in your court. So
they don't think you're cool. I don't think you're cool. It's not a big deal. Just kidding. I don't actually know that every NFL, NBA, or WMLB player
WMLP.
MLB player she fucked has a sex addiction. One of them could have been nice.
Well, none of them are nice, but some of them may have just been bored that day. Do you know what I mean? But like on days when they have other things to do, they can get their job done. And everyone who has casual sex is addicted. Anyway, so she starts dating this guy, Colin, who's a manager at a bar.
He's like self-conscious.
I wouldn't say that Colin and I are boyfriend and girlfriend. It is crazy how she's like, well, who would date me? And the answer is kind of no one.
Okay, so she and Colin aren't exclusive. She knows he's dating other people, but then one of the other people he's dating is out at the same bar as them. So he like makes out with that girl right in front of her, and she gets really upset because she's like, I get that we're not exclusive, but you don't have to like be on a date in front of me. You don't have to be on a date at me. And so then they break up, and then she starts dating Michael Shay.
Well, why? Here's a butterfly effect.
Here's a butterfly effect.
So what do you do when you're 24 years old and your normie ass bar manager boyfriend who isn't your boyfriend hooks up with a girl in front of you? You drive to Vegas to fuck his best friend.
Butterfly effect. There, she reconnected with her friend from high school who she used to carpool with, Michael Shay. And they started talking again. And she did fuck Colin's best friend.
Yeah. Dude, there's a point in this book where she's with 4 guys from The Bachelorette. And someone's like, I can't believe you're fucking this guy. And she goes, joke's on him. I was fucking the other 3. And I'm like, Scheana. Like right now, you're fucking all 3 guys from The Bachelorette. They're roommates.
Don't.
Crazy how the butterfly effect works. Had Colin not kissed that girl at the bar, and I wouldn't have gone to Vegas that weekend to get back at him by banging his friend, and I never would have reconnected with Shay.
Oh.
It's so insane how something so beautiful could have come out of something so... Imagine if your situationship hadn't disrespected you, you would have never gotten into a horrible marriage with a man who disrespects you. Anything can become anything.
How beautiful life can be. Oh my God. Like a year later, she and Shay run into Colin.
And she's like so happy with Shay.
At the parlor on Melrose.
And he says to her that his life would have been so much better if he had picked me and that he was very depressed. I didn't understand the magnitude of what he was telling me. When you're 26, you don't always get how much of you can make a difference in someone's life.
A week later, Colin takes his own life, and this really affected her.
Because the last thing she had said to him on the phone was, well, that's what you get for kissing another girl in front of me. And then he did, unfortunately, kill himself a week later.
So she feels really sad about it. She honors his life. Their thing was drinking whiskey. So every year on his birthday or on the day, she takes a shot of whiskey.
For years, I was so angry at Colin because I used to see suicide as a selfish act. I thought you only hurt the people around you. It wasn't until a couple years ago when I lost a friend from high school that I started looking at it from the suicidal person's perspective. Someone had to explain to her and be like, that probably means they were in a lot of pain. And she suddenly was like, I guess I had never really thought about how suicide might affect the person who does it. I had really only thought about how it affected me. And I was pissed.
I thought it was revenge. And I said, yeah, you got your revenge. Now I have to get drunk every year on your birthday.
I thought it was a specifically pointed act to hurt me, Scheana Shay.
Oh, Scheana.
I had never really considered that other things might be going on.
Who would? So she's going to a ton of auditions. She's trying to make it in Hollywood. She books Jonas, the Jonas Brothers show on Disney Channel. She does Victorious famously. She also is like kind of on The Hills, I think. I think she's on like an episode or 2 of The Hills.
She's like goes to the bar where The Hills hangs out knowing that they'll film there.
Also, she's friends with Stacy, the bartender from The Hills. It's okay. The way she name drops in this book, it's not just every person she's ever dated. Like later when she's talking about her friend Janet and she's like, and that's how I met Janet. And I'm like, oh, from the Valley? You're name dropping Janet from the Valley?
I guess if you're like Scheana and you're desperate for fame and you're very open to the delusion that the world revolves around you, you do think you're like giving everybody like a fun little bone. Yeah. Like everything is like wink. I imagine her imagining us reading this book and being like, oh my God, Janet. Oh my God. So that's how she knows Janet.
That's how we met Janet, who you guys know of.
The most hated girl on the most hated reality show of all time. Janet from the Valley. I also want to double back to the way she talks about the Jonas episode. She says, the fact that I not only got to act with the Jonas Brothers, but also had a song written about me and starred in their music video was mind-blowing. I will forever be Maria the Pizza Girl. I'm like, I don't think they wrote the song about you. I think they wrote a song and then they cast you.
Yeah, I also don't know who Maria the Pizza Girl is.
I'm sure there are people who know, like,
I guess, can I
Joe
say?
Bros?
But I think I've seen on TikTok like Scheana supercuts. I didn't even know there was a song. Yeah, is what I'm saying. Is I know she was in the Jonas Brothers. I know about it, but I like don't.
Did you know there's a Jonas Brothers song I love?
Of course, I'm sure there is. There's a Jonas Brothers song everybody loves.
Yeah, but I was like, so I didn't grow up with the Jonas Brothers, and I also specifically don't like virgins.
Okay. I don't think they still are.
Well, the year 3000.
Of course. That song's amazing, Claire.
I actually love that song.
Okay, why wouldn't you?
I discovered it as an adult and like put it on playlists. Like I guess that's why I'm like, no, I didn't grow up with the Jonas Brothers. I like independently discovered a song and went, well, this is classic.
I loved Year 3000 and I loved SOS. Me and my friend Alyssa used to always talk about this one part of the music video where Joe Jonas like really looked up at you, and it's just like, yeah, that's where people thought he could be a star. Anyway, she's doing an episode of The Hills, and she really emphasizes the way The Hills is like scripted as shit. She was opposition for Heidi and Lauren and everybody. And then afterwards, when they would leave, they'd be like, bye, fun meeting you today. And she was like, oh, they were only arguing with us for like reality show entertainment. So she thought that's how reality shows were, where you'd like kind of fight with each other, but like there weren't real problems.
Okay, so then she gets her job at Villa Blanca. It's the first time she meets Ken and Lisa. She talks about her very first day doing a double shift and serving Ken and Lisa and getting Ken's order wrong. He wanted the ahi tuna entree and she gave him the ahi tuna tartare for an appetizer. And she goes, that was my first real introduction to Ken and Lisa and how particular and meticulous they were about every single detail. And I am like, well
it's just the wrong order.
I would call that bare minimum. They
ordered lasagna, but I served them spaghetti and meatballs, and I realized they wanted their spaghetti wide. Very particular.
Really anyway, small shout out, and I normally skip over these, but I think it's important. One day she went into work with a 102-degree fever. This was pre-COVID when it was thought to be fine to be handling people's food with the flu.
If not correct. Fine, if not encouraged.
It showed real character. Tyler Perry was there, one of the best tippers ever. Typically, he'd leave $200. That night was the lowest he'd ever given me, but it was still 40% of the bill, which was so generous given that I'd screwed up his very simple order.
Oh, yeah, she brought him fully the wrong thing, and he still tipped 40%. Can I say
Tyler Perry?
Tyler Perry gives women money.
And I hate to go on record defending a man because I find anytime I do this, I'm like very quickly shown I'm wrong. And I'm sure there's a lot to not like about Tyler Perry. I do think he goes out of his way to not only pay women, but specifically make sure Black women in the entertainment industry are given like their due.
I mean, he has been raising people's quotes.
That's okay. I wasn't sure if that was the word, but yeah. The way it works is however much you get paid for a movie, that's kind of your quote then on. And I guess they could pay you lower, but that's your standard rate. So specifically Black women get really fucked over with low quotes that then like if nobody will raise your quote, it's hard to raise your quote. So he'll put these women in movies. He did it for Taraji P. Henson after she got fucked the fuck over in the Benjamin Button movie.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? He also did it for Cicely Tyson, and I'm sure he's done it for other women whose memoirs we haven't watched. And so listen, I'm not going to say Tyler Perry is a perfect person, but this is something he seems to specifically do. So credit.
Yeah, I do think the way that he moves wealth. I mean, he
has all of the wealth.
He has all of the wealth. And let me tell you what, he gave Prince Harry a place to live when he was homeless.
Black women and Prince Harry.
And Scheana Shay are all really surviving because of Tyler Perry. Anyway, so
I love this. So she's like, I loved working at Villa Blanca, which I did for about 5 years. First while I was single and after when I married Shay. My fellow employees got to see both sides of me. Single, crazy Hollywood Scheana and serious relationship Scheana. So it felt like my colleagues really got me. Imagine being like, there's two sides to me. Me when I'm single and me when I'm in a relationship. And that's the whole thing.
Anyway, so then she gets kind of like backdoored into creating Lisa's spinoff, essentially. So Lisa, when Scheana's been at Villa Blanca for about a year, becomes a Real Housewife. And that kind of like changes the vibe. Everyone at the restaurant is kind of worried that Lisa is going to become like a diva. It turns out kind of fine.
They said if anything, it gets better because she's not so anal about the restaurants anymore because she's busy.
Yeah. So then Scheana gets asked to work an event for this like Real Housewives party with the Vanderpump people. And Scheana now knows that this was Lisa's effort to like create a conflict so that there is reason to create a Vanderpump Rules spinoff. Because Brandi Glanville is also a Real Housewife. Brandi was the one who was married to Eddie when Scheana was fucking Eddie for 2 years. So Sheena's like, I didn't know at the time that Lisa knew about that. Everybody fucking knew about that. Everybody in the restaurant world knew about that.
Remember, you went on record. You went on record to set the record straight that you were in fact fucking Eddie. But Lisa does this. She randomly is like, I need an extra wait staff person at Sir tonight, knowing that they were going to have the event there, knowing that Brandi and Scheana were going to interact. She literally sends Scheana over with our daughters and she goes, can you go serve those people over there? And she goes, I can't. That's my ex-boyfriend's wife. And then later she's like, did Lisa know? Did Lisa set me up?
Durr.
That's literally how Vanderpump Rules starts, with like a confrontation between Like Brandy walks out of that event and into a confrontation, and then suddenly it's a new TV show.
Durr. And then it creates a conflict because Scheana is this new server who is coming from the other restaurant, but she doesn't know the other servers that serve very well. And they all think of her as this homewrecker because they've met her through this conflict.
She's so funny. She's like, I ended up signing up to do Vanderpump Rules, but I wish Lisa had just been honest with me. I would have still signed up to do Vanderpump Rules. But that's so true. You never really have to trick Scheana into doing anything.
I really think that had Lisa known, she would have just been like, this is the drama I need you to create. But like, how could you have known that you could have said like, hey, will you go swim in the mouth of that alligator?
The way that Scheana will do a deal with the devil for almost nothing.
Yeah.
You couldn't guess how little she would give it all up for.
I keep on thinking about that TikTok audio from Madagascar where they go, yay, I'm a sacrifice.
Okay, I have to read this. I love this quote. Shortly after we filmed the pilot, I made sure that my Botox was fresh. I didn't want to be accused of getting work done when the show aired. Now, as a seasoned reality TV star, I know that the irony of learning how to do your makeup better and figuring out your good side on camera is that people will still say you've had plastic surgery, which I have not. Trust me, if I had, I'd be shouting my surgeon out for a deal. That's not really what irony is.
No.
To be like, it's so ironic that if you get really good at makeup and Botox, people will think you've had work done. It's like not ironic.
Yeah. Anyway, so everyone at SUR kind of hates her because she's entered the show as the homewrecker. From the start of my employment, I was Lisa's favorite because I did whatever she asked of me.
She says up until about season 7, Lisa would call her every morning, first thing in the morning, and be like, here's something I'd love for you to say on air today. She had a roundabout way of getting me and others to do her bidding without giving a clear directive, and she would be disappointed if we didn't do what she wanted.
It doesn't sound like it was a roundabout way. It sounds like she called you and said, hey, I need you to defend James today.
Yeah.
She had a roundabout way of not being pictured on camera directing.
Yeah, which was to do it off camera.
To Scheana. And she goes, I don't know who else she was calling or if I was, she was calling everybody.
She was calling everybody. And I think one by one, they stopped listening to her.
Yeah.
She also says that she signed up to do Vanderpump Rules, even though she still wanted to be a scripted actress because they said they would like highlight her passions. And she goes, that has not been the case. They barely showed my podcast.
She also did think that Vanderpump Rules would lead her to more hosting gigs, which this I actually felt to be the ultimate irony because of the way Ariana has blossomed into a pretty successful host.
Well, something she says is she knew Tom Sandoval before she knew everybody else because they were both bartenders at Villa Blanca. And she's like, there we would talk about our dreams of being actors and hopefully one day on Dancing with the Stars. And I'm like, I've never heard two people who have no success yet be like, my dream to be on Dancing with the Stars. Dancing on the Stars with people who have like come and gone.
Yeah. It is so funny that she did actually get exactly like the way that the people of Vanderpump Rules, the reason that show worked is because they were getting exactly what they wanted. Like these were people whose passion was fame. Getting on TV in a famous way. She wasn't passionate about the craft of acting.
None of them were. I mean, that's the way they're like, I don't care if it's the music, acting, anything. I just want to be famous. And you got it. So of course the girls, Stassi, Kristen, and Katie all tried to ice out Scheana because they didn't like her. It only backfired. It kept her on longer.
The other thing is that she was still working at Villa Blanca and SUR for the whole first 2 seasons. And she said she was making more at the restaurants than she was for doing the show.
I think they made like $5,000 to $10,000 the first couple seasons.
Yeah.
They were making like no money. For the first 2 seasons of Vanderpump Rules, I was dating and then became engaged to Shay. While I didn't realize it at the time, I was kind of going through the motions of life as I thought I was supposed to, not only as a young woman who wanted to become a wife, but also as a reality star who needed to keep the show interesting by sharing my big milestones on camera. And I definitely got caught up in the fairy tale. So her and Shay get engaged.
Then they get married during season 3.
She goes, listen, I didn't think that there was red flags, but in hindsight, I guess there were.
Our relationship was about fitting into a specific plan for how I thought my life should be. We weren't kids anymore. I was 29 and feeling the pressure to settle down. I dated and hooked up with a bunch of celebrities and experienced a very full single life.
So shortly after they get married, she like had cold feet, but she's like, I don't know, you just get nervous before a wedding. Now she looks back and she's like, I wonder if the fact that I was so upset and anal about my wedding had to do with the fact that I like knew I was marrying the wrong guy.
This is the one I'll give her where I feel like if you're about to have a wedding on television, I feel like you're allowed to be like, was it the fact that I was about to get married on TV?
Yeah. And can I say, I actually do think it is an interesting look at when you're getting married for the right reasons, the wedding is just like a stressful party. But if you're getting married to have a wedding, then the wedding has to be perfect.
Yeah.
Because like that's like, you know what I mean? Like there's no happy ending. There's no like, well, tomorrow we get to go home and be together and that's what we did it for. It's like, I did it for today.
Yeah. The whole point was to have this wedding. She does, I think, really get this. She's like, I understand that like if things were good, I probably wouldn't have freaked out. But because I was so freaked out, every bad thing that happened felt catastrophic. She also doesn't think that Shay stealing Vicodin is that big of a deal.
Yeah, first he's stealing Vicodin from her and then her parents. And whenever anybody's like, hey, we think Shay stole Vicodin from us, she's like, why would you even say that? He said he didn't.
Also at their wedding, Tom gave Shay ecstasy, but she thinks Shay thought it was Adderall. But like this, I don't think ever even becomes a conversation.
I didn't even understand what this had to do with anything.
So Shay had been drinking kind of a lot. She asked him to stay sober for the wedding and he was supposed to perform a song and then the schedule got too mixed up, so he didn't. And then later he couldn't perform the song because he was too fucked up. And she was like, wait, I thought you weren't even drinking. Whatever.
So one day she's checking her phone because she's about to go to Watch What Happens Live in New York City. And she gets a DM from a girl and she can't find the DM. And then she realizes that Shay had actually logged into his account on her phone. So it was going to his account. And when she went to check the message, because she had saw it said something like, can't wait to see you this weekend. And she was going out of town the weekend. And she was like, who is this? I went onto her profile and saw that she was a roughly 300-pound BBW, big, beautiful woman porn star. Her profile photo was of her doggy style, ass to the camera in a thong. Immediately she freaks out. She confronts him and she's like, what the hell? And he goes, oh, I don't know. That's just a fan. She must want to like meet up with us this weekend. And Scheana's like, of course, like, well, why would anybody message you to meet up with you?
And also she's like, well, if she's just a fan who wants to meet up, why are you deleting the messages? Again, he totally deflected. He said, are you kidding? Do you think I would be interested in someone like that? She's just a fan. You're hiding something. He shook his head and insisted I was being crazy. He had perfected the art of gaslighting. Let me tell you something. He did not.
He was just lying to you and you accepted it.
It's just not gas.
Well, you caught him and he lied.
Later in this book, Scheana is like, I tend to believe people. And I'm like, yeah, that's the understatement of the year. I'm sorry. You've believed everyone. Like, oh, Eddie's not married. Everyone on the internet, including like all like he's famously married. He's a famous person married famously.
But the people pleaser in me just wanted to believe that he wasn't. Our first year of marriage went on like that, as if we were stuck on the worst roller coaster of all time. There were some bright spots, like these mini getaway trips we'd take to Las Vegas, which always had a certain sheen since we'd rekindled our relationship there. But on one of those usually fun trips, we got into a huge fight. She's like, I can't remember what it was, but his phone ended up broken. So we had to borrow my sister's extra phone for a while until I could buy him a new one. And because of that, like the iClouds, whatever, she was with her little sister and Katie Maloney. And they started getting texts from this girl who was sending cute selfies being like, I can't wait to see you. And when they looked at
it says you on top of me sounds really good right now.
Well, first the text she sent was this. And then they looked at their conversation and saw he had sent her, you on top of me sounds really good right now. I was heartbroken and furious. And when she approached him, he was like, oh, no. It was just an emotional affair, never physical. As hurt and humiliated as I was, my pride won out over every other emotion. In order to save face, especially in front of Courtney and Katie, I decided to let it go yet again. I was too embarrassed to admit that he was talking to someone else behind my back, so I decided to believe him when he said it would never happen again.
What do you think pride means?
I'm sorry. Do you think Katie and Courtney are going, wow, that Scheana, she's so strong.
She's so proud.
She's really being treated good. If she's staying with him, it must be because their relationship is so good that we misunderstood what's happening.
Oh, it was just an emotional affair. Well, stay proud and stay with him.
So then she's like upset. And I guess people kept noticing that something was wrong with her on the show, but she didn't want to bring up the cheating. So instead she goes, instead of being honest, I shared that Shay had an addiction issue. I knew it was an extremely relatable struggle that many people could understand. I was being honest. Even if it wasn't the most destructive problem in our marriage, it was at the very least simmering beneath his emotional cheating. First of all, he was physically cheating on you, A. Are we still going to call it emotional? It was physical. And B, I'm sorry, that is shitty of her. What do you mean you were too embarrassed to admit he was cheating on you, so you just outed him as an addict? Without his consent, without his knowledge.
So then he just steals $6,000 and runs away.
And then she's like humiliated because she got left. And so she like asks him if they could have a reunion on camera. And he agrees to it. And then I guess she finds out that he had also been buying Adderall when he said he was sober. And I was like, of course, because he was in fact an addict. And she confronts them on camera. And when he won't own up to the fact that he was taking Adderall when he said he was sober, she says, I want a divorce right now. And she goes, even the producer of Vanderpump Rules thought I was cold-hearted in that moment for just divorcing him right on camera without his prior, like she like genuinely surprised him with a divorce. And if I remember correctly, the scene was with like other people. Like she had brought Tom Scandoval to mediate.
The reason I decided to do it on camera is because we'd already addressed that he left me and disappeared for a week on the show, and we needed to complete the narrative for the new finale. Oh, you had to complete the narrative for your pride. Once I made the decision to leave Shay, I wanted everything to be done as quickly as possible. So she just goes 50-50 with him. I think he had not a dollar to his name, and she like gives him $50,000 along with I guess not even going after all the money he stole to like buy drugs.
It was quite clean and nice, honestly.
And stole regular amounts.
Yeah, he was stealing money and saying it was to pay his parents back for florals at the wedding, but it was to buy drugs.
Yeah.
He didn't even have a job that whole time. And he was spending money on like music studios.
When he broke his phone, he had to have Scheana's little sister's old phone.
Until Scheana could come and sign off on a new phone. But she's so crazy. She goes, I didn't confront Shay immediately. Instead, I waited until Wednesday and hatched a plan. The producers of VPR thought they were going to be filming a reconciliation scene, but I had a very different idea in mind. You can't say shit like that, Scheana. Like, it's so crazy that in this scenario, she's dead in the right. And somehow she's so self-absorbed and selfish and vain that she like actually becomes the worst person in a scenario where like her husband is cheating on her and stealing from her and lying about an addiction. And I'm still like, Scheana, you're the worst one.
What do you mean you blindsided him on camera?
With a divorce.
Crazy. They were gaslighting and people pleasing each other, it seems.
Yeah, everybody's pleased. When I look at this situation and go, well, everybody was pleased. It was the people pleaser in her.
Everybody wins.
Anyway, they're good now. She didn't go to his mother's funeral because it was reunion day. But don't worry, he said, as much as it'll suck for me, I know reunions day is hard too. So good luck to you as well.
So the marriage to Shay in season 5 are behind her. I wasn't ready to be single again at 32. I wanted to be married and have children one day.
This is one of my favorite sentences.
And it felt like it had to be pretty soon.
Okay. The week after the papers were signed, I reconnected with a guy named Rob, who I'd met in my early 20s after I was with Jesse Metcalf.
Oh, that's
I was wondering when it lined up with Jesse Metcalf.
So was this before or after John Mayer? Hold on. Can you relist everybody? Where does Josh Hopkins fit in?
What about NBA MLB? So he takes her to Disneyland and he sounds like a psychopath. They're at Disneyland all day and she keeps trying to make out with him. And instead he had like an idea in his head about when they would kiss and it was during the fireworks. And she's like, that's Rob. All that matters is a magical moment. And I was like, oh, fun.
Yay.
So she had reconnected with him before her and Shay were officially divorced. And she's like, of course I didn't make a move till I was single, but she did have feelings for Rob and was like kind of wondering what would happen if they had ended up together. And she goes, I'll never know if I would have like had those feelings had my marriage not been riddled with betrayal and heartbreak. Unfortunately, I'll never get to know. And I'm like, totally.
Yeah.
So the problem with Rob is that he doesn't want to be on VPR. So she's like, that's fine. I'll quit VPR.
And he was like, don't.
He agrees to be on VPR in some way, but very quickly it comes up that someone's caught him making out with another girl at a restaurant.
And she's like, wait, did he not want to be on TV with me because he didn't want to be dating me?
And she goes, I'll never know if that was true or not. Her rebuttal, and she quotes it here, if you guys are fans of VPR, she says it was impossible for him to have been caught making out with another waitress because he doesn't even like to kiss, so we don't even really kiss. It seems crazy to think he'd kiss another girl.
He hates PDA, so what do you mean he's like kissing someone in public? That makes no sense. Anyway, luckily she meets Janet, and that's part of that story.
2 weeks after we wrapped, Rob asked me to come over to his place. I'll never forget that he had his fantasy football draft going on, so I sat there hanging out with his dog, twiddling my damn thumbs for 2 hours while he picked his team. Finally, he closed his computer, looked at me and said, this isn't working.
Scheana.
What do you mean you watched a man pick his fantasy draft and then dump you? That is like, you are already a divorced woman in your 30s. When will you grow a backbone? When will you have a spine, Scheana? When will you say, I actually don't need a man in my life this bad?
I mean, it's truly so absurd because first of all, there is like a pretty clearly predictable end time for these things. Like if the draft is at 4, he can tell you when to come over. Second of all, there's a lot of time between your picks. He could have broken up with you during his like 20-minute waiting period.
He could have broken up with her at 3:30.
So true.
He could have broken up with her the next day. Anyway, it doesn't even matter. She keeps sleeping him for 4 months.
I had so much pride that I didn't want to admit that I couldn't keep a marriage and then I couldn't keep a boyfriend.
So I kept sleeping with him.
That's very, very prideful of you.
I wonder if...
What does she think the word means, do you think?
I guess desperate.
Yeah.
I guess if you take... Every time she uses pride...
I had so much desperation that I didn't want to admit. Yeah.
You know, I was so desperate that I didn't want to give up on my marriage in front of Katie and Courtney, even though they had caught him cheating with me.
Yes.
I was desperate, so I didn't let it end.
Yeah, of course.
I guess it sounds better to call it pride. Anyway, so he goes to London to find himself. And this is when she goes out with all those bachelorette boys. And she's at some like lantern expose in Vegas where they all release a lantern. It's called Rise. And Rob's yelling at her, being like, how dare you sleep with that guy? And she's like, joke's on you, I'm sleeping with the other 3.
So she actually gets a gig doing a Vegas show.
Oh my God. This is another really sad butterfly fact. So the guy that she was hooking up that day from the Bachelorette Boys, of the House of Bachelorette Boys that I guess she was sleeping with, they were all partying together. She was hooking up with him. And then he went to a strip club and she went with, and then he left with a stripper.
But then she goes to hang out with her friends, Kendra Wilkinson and somebody else. And they're like, wait, when Kendra's contract is over for this Vegas show, you should do it.
So she ends up doing sex tips for straight women from a gay man. And when she tells the Vanderpump Rules people that she wants to do this, they tell her she's not allowed. So she agrees that every Tuesday she'll fly back to LA, do her podcast, work at SUR, and then fly back to Vegas so that she can say she still works at the restaurant in order to keep her job on VPR, even though all of the other people on Vanderpump Rules had stopped working at the restaurant. But they were like, that's exactly why we need you to keep working there, because you're our only connection. And if you don't do this, you can't keep working here. So she agrees to do that. She flies back for 6 months, once a week. And she goes, I wasn't even collecting tips from the pool anymore.
She was volunteering at a restaurant while doing a show in Vegas.
She was commuting to LA once a week from Vegas on an airplane in order to volunteer at her boss's restaurant. Scheana, you're really one of the more pathetic people in the world. I'm sorry, but like, what's victim blaming and this is so pathetic.
No, it's really bad.
Scheana.
Those months were the exact reset I needed. Single Scheana thrived in Vegas.
So she's back for season 7. She's feeling extra lonely because she's the only single person on the cast. Everybody else is coupled up. To make matters worse, I knew that Kristen had been demoted for season 7. And since my own contract was only for 7 years, I was afraid that my future for season 8 was also in jeopardy. And guess what? I was absolutely right. So she's in New York City doing publicity for VPR when she gets a call being like, you have to talk to Alex Baskin tomorrow. He's the creator, executive producer of Vanderpump Rules. And she goes, no, I want to know right now. So she calls Alex and he's like, well, where are you? She goes, I'm about to do promo for your show that I'm on currently. Am I still on it? And he goes, no.
Yeah. So she finds out that she's getting demoted to like recurring, I guess. I'd given so much to the show from the beginning, not to mention how I just spent 6 months flying back and forth from Vegas to keep my filming schedule. That's crazy that she had just done that. And then they were like, and you're not even really on the show anymore.
And what's insane is she goes to Andy Cohen, former memoirist, and she's like, isn't there anything you can do? You just said that I am Vanderpump Rules. He goes, I can't affect it at all. He goes, I have nothing to do with your show. I have no pull anywhere.
That's not true, Andy.
That's not true.
Bravo, Andy.
And then he says to her, I have no say whatsoever, but I can tell you that if this is what they're doing, they're making a huge mistake. You are Vanderpump Rules. And then he said, listen, we're a few minutes from air. I need you to get your shit together and make great TV and show everyone that you deserve your spot on the show.
She is so manipulatable.
Can you imagine saying to somebody who's been doing their job for 7 years and literally like gotten married and gone through a divorce and been publicly humiliated time and time again and been like, tonight, just really show them that you deserve it. She's been doing it for 7 years.
This is like one of her moments of self-awareness where she's like, they could do this to me because they knew I needed the show. If they had done something like this to Stassi would have been like, okay, bye, I guess. But they did it to me because they knew I would just like take whatever. Like they know that she is someone who will like dig for scraps.
I accepted my position. I plastered a smile on my face and was ready to welcome the new girls to VPR with open arms.
Despite my demotion, I was still a main character. She's still in the opening credits. She's still doing all the promo, but she's just not getting paid a salary. She's only getting paid a day rate for the days she films.
She also proceeds to get humiliated these seasons when she's single because there's like 2 new boys, Max and Adam. Max is like, oh, Scheana came on to me and I was not interested, which makes her look pathetic. And then she hooks up with this guy, Adam. I think she bought him an Apple Watch maybe, or maybe like it was Max, Adam, and then Brett. And I can't really tell them all apart, but I remember she looked obsessed with all of them and got swerved by all of them.
I don't know who to believe where. She says that they made her look way more pathetic than she was actually acting. She says that there was a lot more reciprocity between her and I think Adam than was shown on the show. But like they all made her look like an idiot.
Which, I don't know.
It's hard to tell, but I will say...
I mean, it's very easy to make her look like an idiot. That's the problem.
But the thing is, like, they do have parts. Yes. Like, especially when they edited her, like, flirting with Lala's brother, or Stassi's little brother. Yeah. She is, like, some of these were insane. And I'm like, that one I'll give you. Apparently, she, like, had to sit next to Stassi's brother at something. They were, like, getting him involved, ask him questions. So she's, like, trying to talk to this 15-year-old. And they made it look like she was flirting with a 15-year-old, which is kind of disgusting.
Yeah. So she has beef with Dana Cathan, who's on that season.
Friend of the pod.
What up, Dana? So she explains, which I think is true. Brian Moylan, who does the Vulture recaps, has this overarching theory of Housewives, which is like the longer you're on the Housewives, all fights on the Housewives are about the Housewives. And this is an example of that. And that it seemed like she hated Dana, but really she's like, I was just frustrated because Dana like came on as this new girl and I had been demoted and I had paved the way for her whole job basically. And even though I was technically making more than her, she was making more than I did at her role. And also I had been begging them to show me acting or show me doing my podcast, and they showed her stand-up comedy right away. Like she was just very threatened and insecure. And she said Dana was very accepting and understanding when Scheana explained her side. And I want to say this. If you feel like Scheana, if you feel like you're somebody who is always trying your hardest to like do the right thing and follow order and like behave good enough that you get the reward, and yet it seems like you're only ever punished for doing what you thought you were supposed to do, and the people around you seem to be rewarded for breaking the rules, I recommend you listen to the Bella's memoir we did a couple years ago. It's Brie and
Nikki
Bella, the Bella twins. They are people that went into the WWE and they didn't know how the world worked. So they just like did what made sense to get ahead. And because of that, they were like immediately promoted, and it pissed everybody else off, because when there is an institution in the system and you know that system, it's very easy to think that if you play by the rules of the system, you'll be rewarded. But in reality, those rules exist to keep you exploited. So you have to go in and fight for what you want.
The problem is that Scheana is a cowering, pathetic loser who is afraid of losing what little ground she's gained. So the only way...
I feel like I was trying to be so nice. I'm like, if you relate, like, here's a good story of confidence and how it's rewarded ultimately.
And so what I'm saying is the only way that they could portray her, the only personality that they could apply to her is to emphasize what a cowering, pathetic loser she is. And it makes her look like way bigger of a loser. If she had gone in and like tried things, tried to knock down doors, insisted upon herself, like the only thing she insists on is that she is a people pleaser who will do whatever you want. So that is the only character that they can emphasize. Like if there is anything else to emphasize other than her.
But I'm talking about the back end dealings.
Yeah,
like why did she just get divorced on camera? And they're like, okay, and you've been demoted. And she's like, and I'll take it.
But I'm saying it's a reality show and it's all one. Like her whole character, the only thing she does is be that person. And if in the back end dealings she stood up for herself, then in the front end dealings she's going to stand up for herself. And then there's something to show besides her like cowering.
Yeah. She was also freezing her eggs through all of this. So of course she was like very hormonal, and she's like, it made me even more sensitive. After season 8 demotion, she gets re-promoted for season 9. Thankfully, when season 9 rolled around, my demotion was lifted. I thought I had proven myself and was finally in the clear. Little did I know it would happen a second time for season 10. When I read that, I was like, yeah, little did you know, Scheana. You know very little. Like, that's what you know.
That's kind of one of your main things, is just like never expecting that anyone is going to do exactly the thing
they said that they were going to do.
Anyway, so this next chapter is called Liar, Liar, and it's about how she meets Brock Davies, her current husband.
Okay.
They meet at a music festival.
So she at this point is single and like kind of hooking up with her female friend. She meets this girl and they're like making out all the time. That's like her shtick now, is like making out with a woman.
She kind of says, had she not met Brock, maybe she would have pursued things with this woman. But I'm like, yeah, I think a lot of straight married women would have pursued something else, maybe.
Once they're definitely married to a man now.
Maybe.
I mean, like there was ample time for you to pursue it. It seems like with anybody else, you like jumped in.
And I'm not doing bisexual erasure. She doesn't call herself that.
No, she's just like, we loved getting drunk and making out.
And we loved talking.
It became this thing where we would get drunk, make out, and tell people we were dating. It never went beyond that. We were just friends who drunkly made out often. And we were both talking to guys. It's kind of like a fun party trick they had.
Yay.
So they're at this festival in San Diego. They go to this after party. It's at Brock's apartment. At the after party, Brock initially hits on DD, the girl that Scheana had been making out with. It wasn't at all surprising that a guy would hit on her. She was so beautiful. And he hadn't even seen me yet.
Oh.
Though after they'd been talking for a few, he realized that she had that typical hot girl who knows she's hot attitude and the best resting bitch face, which he wasn't into. Their personalities just didn't click.
I was a hot girl who actually was really insecure, and that's much sexier.
Yeah, he hit on my best friend, but that's because he didn't even know me and he didn't even know her personality sucked yet. He was about to find out her personality sucked, and he really likes me and my personality. And when he saw me, I was actually even prettier. And but not that I know. I don't know.
If a girl actually knows her worth, if she like is a hot girl who knows she's hot, then you actually can't.
That's unlovable.
You can't beat her down.
It's unlovable. Confidence is disgusting. That's why I'm so happy in such rewarding relationships. I'm sorry. Can I say?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Scheana. I think the interesting thing about doing this podcast is the experience of you're reading it. Especially someone like Scheana Shay, where you're like, I have this opinion of this woman.
I love Scheana.
As being kind of...
You wouldn't guess it from anything I've said
like
today.
A boy crazy loser who's like so desperate to be in a relationship that she'll ignore everything. And then you read her book and you go, oh, she is like a really insecure boy crazy loser who's so desperate to be in a relationship that she ignores everything. But also I didn't even know that she was being like disrespected by her bosses too. And then you start quoting her out loud. And when you're in this experience of like rapid fire quoting, like getting to that section where she's in Vegas with the guy and he leaves her for a stripper at the strip club, you're just like, Scheana.
Stop.
It is so sad and pathetic.
Yeah, I wish we had done like a chapter a week so I could really not just hammer it in. So she meets Brock. The next day they go to the festival together because he says he's going, but he actually doesn't even have tickets. And she's like, well, I have extra VIP tickets.
So that's what this chapter is about. The 3 little white lies he told her at the beginning of their relationship. Looking back, another white lie was that he wasn't dating someone else, but that doesn't really get it. These are like cute lies. So the lie is that he has tickets for this festival, but
he doesn't.
He just was going to buy them to hang out with her. But luckily she was already able to supply him with VIP wristbands before he even had to crank out some cash.
Immediately, Brock shared with me that he had 2 kids back in Australia and an ex-wife. I thought his honesty was refreshing, but I was like, okay, bro, I just met you last night. I don't need your whole life story. He comes on pretty strong.
At one point, she's dancing on the bar because Good of Gold is playing, and her friend goes, Brock looks like a sad puppy over there in the corner. You should go hang out with him. I was there to hang out with my friends, but I felt bad, so I went over to talk to him for a bit.
He ends up driving her back to LA. He drives her car back to LA for her.
Because she has a cold, and then he makes her like soup and stuff in her apartment.
And then Dee Dee, the friend, had left her jacket in San Diego. So for her birthday the next weekend in Vegas, Dee Dee really wanted that jacket. So Brock flies to Vegas to deliver the jacket. There's just like a whole series of...
That's crazy. Like he does all these things that I would call love bombing and very like suspicious.
Yeah.
Like it's very sweet to have a guy who like likes you and is attentive and like doing cute little things, but the way that it seems that he has no job or restrictions to just like drive you to LA, fly to Las Vegas for your friend's jacket.
They pretty quickly like go to Australia together and he shows her all around Australia and they become boyfriend, girlfriend. Also, Dee Dee is like, okay, so you've ditched me for this man. Yeah. And she's like, I don't want you to feel that way, but yes.
And she's like, after that, we kind of slowly drifted apart. Then he surprises her with a trip to Bali. He had lied about where they were going, but she's like, it's so thoughtful. As soon as they got together, she realized she really wanted to be a mom with him. But she had been told by her doctor that she had like a low fertility rate. So that's why she had gone through egg freezing. She actually did 2 different rounds of egg freezing to get enough eggs. And then 6 months after they met, the pandemic hit. So they moved in together. They were in San Diego. And they were like, should we freeze embryos together? So she goes through this whole process. And something about like the process of it kind of like gets your body into overdrive fertility wise. And so right away, she actually gets pregnant.
Getting pregnant makes her realize how much she wants to have a baby with Brock. She does miscarry pretty quickly and it's really hard on her.
She's like pretty heartbroken. She was 5 weeks along. It becomes very difficult. The baby isn't actually like...
doesn't naturally expel.
So she has to then get a D&C. But when it starts happening, she calls Brock and is like, can you come be with me? I'm going through a miscarriage right now. And he's like, I'm golfing.
And then she calls Lala and Lala was like, well, if you want to come to dinner, you can, but I'm having dinner. And it turns out Lala and Randall Emmett were having dinner with Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly.
And Scheana's like, why would I want to go have a miscarriage with Machine Gun Kelly? That's like really not what I needed when I said, can you come to me? We're both in Palm Springs. So then Lala's like, well, I'll come check on you tomorrow. And then Randall texts her and goes, Lala can't check on you. We have to take Megan and Machine Gun Kelly back in our private jet.
And Scheana's like, shut up.
Can I say an interesting deal with the devil that a lot of people in LA seem willing to make that I don't think I would be willing to make is it worth it to have a free private jet if that means you have to hang out with Randall Emmett all weekend?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
No, that's a good question. Is it worth it? The answer to me is no.
Because I'm like, Machine Gun, like, why be as hot as Megan Fox if to get on a private plane you still have to be around Randall Emmett?
Yeah.
Like, just around him at all.
Awful. Anywhere that he's been, I don't want to be. The energy leaks. Our bodies are porous. Okay, so she miscarries. She also gets demoted for season 10. And also Brock has no job, which I don't know if that was new or consistent, but...
she's not filming because of COVID.
Yeah.
And then...
I think she'd also already been demoted for 10.
But like, and then there wasn't even that. And then her podcast gets dropped by the network Podcast One, which...
what could that mean? But...
just keep...
you know what?
Whatever. And then Brock's gym's closed down, so they had no income.
And so then the doctor was like, after your miscarriage, if you wait 1 month, that 1 month after that is actually the best time for you to try again because there's still a lot of fertility drugs in your system. But she's like, no, we actually are beyond broke, so we shouldn't do that. They do, however, during that window, have unprotected sex one time.
She suggests that like Brock comes fast and loud. She's like, he quivered at my touch and immediately splooged. And it was
straight into me.
It was so powerful. I thought, did you just get me pregnant? Did you see the Valley when she's like, Brock's dick isn't long, but it is thick. Okay, you guys can't see me right now, but you know those like underwater sponges that like and like spit it like I see his dick like backing up. If you're on the YouTube, you can watch my hand motion like backing up and like fire like cannonball firing a big old chunk of splooge. Does that make sense?
No.
It doesn't make sense?
No, it makes sense, but I'm blocking it out. I'm deflecting your splooge.
So she gets pregnant with Summer Moon. She's actually thrilled to be pregnant during COVID because she's like, I didn't have to go anywhere. I could just sit around all day. And then she has a terrible time giving birth. She has late diagnosed preeclampsia. Her heart rate spikes. It's very, very scary.
She has something called HELLP syndrome. She ends up in the ICU for a couple of days, and she gets out of the hospital, I think like 5 days before cameras go up for the next season of Vanderpump Rules.
And she's like, none of my giving birth even made it to air. She's like, I'm like crying and upset the whole season, and it's because I almost just died in childbirth. But like, they're like, nobody really cares about that shit. And she's like, of course, 2 years later, they start the Valley when it turns out everybody our age who watches us is also going through stuff. So it is interesting.
Yeah.
But not when she does it, I guess.
No.
I've called Summer mini Scheana since before she was born. And if this little girl really is a mini version of me, I'm intent on being strong, fierce, and forgiving. That's the kind of mother I want to be for her. And that's the kind of woman I want her to be someday.
She has a lot of anxiety around motherhood. She's later diagnosed with postpartum OCD and regular OCD.
She also becomes friends with Lala again. She forgives her for the miscarriage cruelty because she is being quite inconsiderate. I mean, Lala isn't a good friend. Yeah. She's a clout whore. So
yeah.
Push comes to shove. But anyway, she's like, at the end of the day, she was going through her divorce. We both had little girls. We became each other's chosen family.
She starts going to therapy for her OCD because she's realizing through watching Lala and Brittany and her other friends who are parents that like while they are anxious and, you know, they take their child's safety very seriously, she's like, I definitely have more anxiety than you guys and like something is going on. And so she starts going to therapy. She ends up successfully taking Summer Moon to Disneyland alone.
And vlogging
it, which is like
she's like, it was just such a handful to be with a 2-year-old by yourself. And she's like, but I vlogged the whole thing. And I'm like, well,
yay.
If the camera's in hand, then yeah, there's not a lot of hands left.
Anyway, so then Brock wants to arrange a really romantic proposal on television so that Scheana could see how much she was loved. It was very important that she see how important she was by having a beautifully broadcasted proposal. Of course, none of that really comes together. So he wants to do this like elaborate proposal / surprise wedding ambush.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't work out for some reason.
Because of like COVID and filming locations and whatever. And so then he ends up proposing on like a balcony.
She's like, however, I didn't like the dress I was wearing, so I made him redo it with a white dress on for photos.
And then they want to do their wedding in, what's it called? Like Little Solvang, yes, where James and Raquel are about to have an engagement party. They're going to elope there.
What no one knew, including me at first, was that the plan was for me and Brock to have a secret elopement while we were there without alerting the rest of the cast.
So then the surprise wedding doesn't really come together again. And so then they're trying to arrange like a wedding announcement, but she's like, I don't want it to interfere with James and Raquel's engagement party. I don't want it to seem like I'm stealing their engagement party by announcing my engagement. Or having like a surprise wedding that it's like turned into this whole thing where I'm like, why this week?
Yeah, it's so funny because she's like really trying to defend herself because she's like, I thought when we announced that we were engaged, everybody was genuinely happy for us. But then when I saw the cutaways and like the talking heads, it turned out everybody thought what I was doing was like tacky and selfish. And she goes, but what they didn't even know is that wasn't even our plan. That was production's plan. That's what production made us do. Because your original plan was to elope. It is so crazy to be like, everyone thinks I'm selfish for getting engaged at James and Raquel's engagement party, but that wasn't even what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was secretly get married at their engagement party, which would have been way less self-absorbed.
The original plan was to get married where the engagement party was going to be later that day. Like to go early, get married there, and then show up later.
And she's like, but I couldn't because Raquel's balcony looked out on it and she would notice all the cameras set up and blah, 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 blah.
We were portrayed as inconsiderate and classless. I mean, yeah, you were being inconsiderate and classless.
And then she explains that the fight they had at James's engagement party was like planted by the producers, that they wanted Lala to bring it up. And Lala was like, no, we're too good of friends. So then they're like, Katie, would you bring it up? Then she goes, Katie was overserved that night. So it didn't go as we had planned. And I'm like, overserved is one of the funnier euphemisms for like got too drunk, because it really like deflects all responsibility.
Yeah.
As if like waiters are coming up to you and pouring shots down your throat without your consent. And now that they're bringing you the drinks you've ordered.
The only time in my life I can confidently say that I was overserved is one time when I was out with my Irish friends, and I feel like they just like get another round without asking. And so it just like is, you know, like when waters just keep getting refilled, I just like never had an empty drink. And I was like, I haven't ordered a single drink.
I've been with those Irish friends. They got me fucked up too. Anyway, she was like, it was just like a really funny thing and we didn't even care. And plus James and Raquel didn't even get married. So it doesn't matter that we ruined their party. Anyway, Brock and her become husband and wife officially August 28th, 2021 in San Diego.
They just do like a little elopement because he's trying to get a green card for his son. So
now they're back to filming season 10 and they demote her again. And their excuse is that because she said on her podcast that they live in San Diego, that since she no longer lives in LA, she's disqualified herself.
Yeah.
But she still had an apartment in LA and she would go back for it. Was just so funny.
Also, Raquel was living in her apartment in LA because Raquel and James had broken up. So she like had an apartment in LA that Raquel was staying at. So she was staying in San Diego more so Raquel could have somewhere to stay.
Either way, I was dropped down to a day rate again, but with a 5% increase from the last one. And they said I could still be a part of the main cast, but they didn't care to have Brock around. It was fine if he wanted to be part of the group, but they couldn't have him being with us all the time. And they said it was because everybody hated him so much because of, you know, the fact that he had domestic abuse charges against him and had abandoned his children and wasn't caught up on child support.
Oh, that's why?
And it's so funny that she's like, he put himself out there to be eviscerated by national TV and he didn't even get paid for it. And now I'm being demoted just because everyone hates him. It's so funny that they're like, what did you want from us then? And I will say, I'm actually on her side here.
Yeah.
Like, why is Jax allowed to, but not him?
I agree. I mean, Bravo's full of shit and they're mean to Scheana. They just walk all over her. Like, that's the thing with season 10. What do you mean she's in the main cast? She's in the opening credits. She's doing all of the promo for the show, but she's just like only gets a day rate. They just take advantage of her because they can.
It's really insane. Like, but
they're like, where can we cut budget?
I guess I don't even understand why they have to cut budget. Like, what could this show cost?
Because they can.
I know, but it feels so mean to be making billions of dollars off of this show that must cost $100 to produce and still being like, we want it to cost $90. Scheana is like homeless.
Imagine you go to a sandwich shop and you think the sandwich is going to cost $20. Like, you're not going to offer $20. You're going to like wait. And if you can pay $15, you're going to pay $15.
I guess it's like not even true because I'm going to get sandwiches and tipping. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't buy dupes. You know what I mean? I guess I
feel
am
like
just
they're sitting there being like, what number could we say that she would say yes to? And they keep on saying like a 5% raise. I was like, Scheana, 5%? What is that, $7?
A day rate. She's like, fine, if I'm not even a main cast member, we're going to have our wedding for just our friends and family in like Australia or Bali or something so that Brock's family can come too. And
but then they have no money, so they had to do it in Mexico.
And then once they find out about the Mexico wedding, they were like, once production got wind of these plans, suddenly they were interested in filming the wedding and said they'd double my day rate for each day we were in Mexico.
So now she needs the money, so she has to let production film her wedding. And I was like, Scheana, make production pay for the wedding. What is wrong with you?
By the way, they're still not paying Brock.
I know.
She's like, yeah, I guess they had to put up with him being a part of it since he's the one I'm marrying. And I'm like,
put up with it.
Scheana.
Brock is volunteering at reality show.
Even though I didn't feel like the show recognized my worth and my confidence had been beaten down, I was the sole provider for my family and the people in the cast are my legitimate friends. So I decided to take the check and do what I had to do, another televised wedding.
Okay, so then she gets into the fact that she is not always the best judge of character. I have a blind spot for taking people at their word, especially when it comes to relationships, friendship, and romantic. Duh. So then she gets into all the clues that Raquel and Tom had been potentially something more than friends. They kept insisting they were best friends, but they had been seen making out at Scheana's party at her wedding.
By the elevators. My wedding dress designer's husband informed me that he had seen Tom and Raquel making out by the elevators. I just assumed that he meant Tom Schwartz because they'd kissed at the welcome party. So first someone goes, I saw Tom Sandoval and Raquel making out at your wedding. And she goes, no, you didn't. And then Ali Luber says, I saw Tom Sandoval and Raquel
making out at the Abbey.
And she goes, yeah, as friends. She says, I saw them dancing at the Abbey together. And Scheana's like, that's totally normal. And Ali goes, really? You wouldn't care if Brock and Raquel were dancing alone at 1 a.m.? And she goes, no.
They could share a bed. I wouldn't even care. She brings it up to Brock, and Brock is like, how dare you accuse your friends of something so cruel? Evidence is mounting, plus Scheana has a gut feeling, and she's never had a gut feeling before. So this is actually huge. Her gut feeling is being told directly several times.
She starts trying to like press Raquel on stuff. And finally Raquel's like, I'll be honest with you, Tom's my best friend in the world. I would never hook up with him, but he did say that him and Ariana have a terrible relationship, and every time he tries to break up with her, she threatens to kill herself. And so Scheana's like, wait a minute, what? I thought they were perfect. And I was like, I think on this very podcast, I've been saying for about 6 years, they are a fucked couple who hate each other and clearly have nothing in common and need to break up. But I do think Ariana, and she has a bit of Scheana in her. And I guess it does come from when you're so vulnerable on reality TV, there are certain things in your life that you're like, I will not hear criticism. And I do think her and Tom kind of had this, like, no matter what, united front on camera.
Yeah.
Because the way that they acted like things were great when clearly like they hadn't had sex in years. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even the way that at one point that was a storyline that she's like, I'm really insecure about my vagina, so we don't have sex. But she like posed it as like something that's not a problem in their relationship. It's just a personal issue.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, if you're not having sex with your boyfriend of like 2 years already and now you're year 10, like.
The hard thing about when this was is that Ariana had been going through it. Like her grandma died, her dog died, there was like a lot of shit going on. And she just does talk about her mental health struggles. I don't know. It does actually seem like, even though the relationship was bad,
yeah,
this does feel like a time where they like wouldn't have been having sex and he should have just still been there for her. Mm-hmm. And instead he was like partying with Raquel.
So they keep trying to push Raquel. Raquel keeps swearing there's nothing happening, but they keep hearing weird things. I guess Katie and Lala are like, something weird is happening there. Ariana's like, get out of my relationship. She's pissed at the speculation. And apparently there is a party where Ariana goes up to Raquel and Tom, who are sitting outside together. And she goes, people think that you guys are hooking up. Like, get it together. Stop behaving in such a way that it would fuel the rumors.
Yeah.
And I guess people have used this as evidence that Ariana knew that they were hooking up. But Scheana's like, I don't think they did. I think she just like trusted Tom and was like
people are saying
like,
these
I'm
things.
being forced to like deal with thoughts of this. So stop acting in a way that's suspicious.
Yeah.
I guess, can I say, there was that clip of Tom giving Raquel like a piggyback ride in the pool that went viral and people were like, that's too close. And I remember specifically going, there's no way they're hooking up, because if you were hooking up with somebody, you wouldn't be this flagrant.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you're cheating, you like go out of your way to avoid each other.
Yeah. I thought that too. Like the fact that she dressed up as him for Halloween or some shit and was like going to his concerts. I was like, yeah, they're just like friends, I guess, because you wouldn't be doing this if you were actually fucking.
Yeah.
As we all know, it comes to a head a night during a Tom Sandoval concert where Ariana finds a video of Raquel having phone sex in Tom's phone. Scheana and Raquel are in New York doing press at the time. They're doing Watch What Happens Live. Scheana and Raquel like kind of have a physical altercation outside of the show.
Should I read exactly what she says? Because this is the most important thing in the world to her. I think these like lead up and lead down from Scandoval got more coverage in her book than her first marriage. I heard Tom screaming at Ariana in the background, and on instinct, I hurled Raquel's phone as far as I could into a gutter in the street. It was so surreal and kind of eerie. There we were at 2 a.m. in the middle of New York City without a single person or car in sight. I then marched over to Raquel, got in her face, and screamed, "How could you do this?" All she could say was, "I'm sorry," pitifully, before grabbing my wrist so I couldn't walk away. She wanted me to listen to her, but instead I pushed her off me. She came back toward me, so I shoved her again. This time, she stumbled into the wall of the building behind her. I yelled, "I cannot believe how disgusting you are," and I left her there. Once I returned to the hotel, I called Ariana and said, "I pushed that bitch," and threw her phone in the street. Ariana had me on speakerphone and Tom could hear from the background. Apparently, he thought I said, "I punched that bitch." I'll admit, there were a lot of emotions that night, but I didn't punch Raquel. So the rest of this book is about how she didn't punch Raquel. And I am like, Scheana, nobody fucking cares. I can't express to you how much nobody fucking cares.
Scheana cares. The way that this has affected Summer Moon, you will not fucking believe. The truth is, the actual emotional repercussions on Summer Moon are going to be
huge.
Enormous.
The rest of this book is insane because there's still about 40 pages left. And it's all about how Scandoval affected her personally, despite what you might think about it not being about her. And it's so funny because she's like, nobody would stop talking about it. I'm like, you wouldn't stop. To this day, you're cashing on it. Fully a third of your book is about Scandoval. And then you're like, why won't people stop talking about it?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of fallout from Scandoval, I guess. It's so funny because that's an understatement and an overstatement. Do you know what I mean? There was a lot of fallout from Scandoval, but also I don't know.
The fallout is a lot I guess Raquel and Tom are scrambling to figure out how to become victims. One of the big things Raquel grasps onto is that she got punched. Scheana's theory is that Tom was like, I heard you got punched. Are you okay, babe? And she was like, actually, no. And I believe that. And I do think that like in that much panic, you're kind of like, how do I become the victim here? So she sues Scheana and files a restraining order. And now nobody's been more affected than Scheana.
It's so hard because I unfortunately see a couple sides of this where I'm like, I do think Ariana was the most emotionally affected, obviously. Like,
I would say Raquel is.
Ariana was the most wronged.
Yes.
In this situation based on things that were like outside of her control.
Yeah.
But I think it can be hard when things are actually going really well for you. I wonder if it is low-key hard on Ariana that like because things went amazing so fast, still no one like cared about the emotional repercussions of being cheated on in this way. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like now if she was like, you know, I have a hard time in relationships because I was like massively betrayed, people would be like, shut up, you have so much money. Mm-hmm. And like while she does have so much money and she came out on top, she also was like betrayed massively by her boyfriend of like 10 years.
Yeah.
That's really crazy.
Yeah. No, it's horrible. And it's with her best friend. Like with the woman she did go on record defending, it's over and over and over again.
I
mean, if this happened to me, I would never trust another soul.
Exactly. And so then it's that thing of like, what do you care about more, money or like being able to have normal human interactions? And for Scheana, it's money. Mm-hmm. But like, you don't know that for everybody.
Well, the other thing is these people are such like fame whores in that they really have a hard time discerning good fame from bad fame. And I do think that they look over and they're like, but you had fame.
Yeah. Anyway, so they're picking up cameras again to film a new ending for season 10. I was really hoping that this would prove how important I am for the show.
So when Raquel files the charges, immediately I started freaking out and crying. Summer felt my fear and pain and teared up as well. The second I realized how scared she was, I knew I needed to reel it in and keep my shit together. So she's like, what's really scary about this is I had never told anybody where I lived, and she lived in Marina del Rey, even though I think they filmed there. She's like, Raquel doxed me the day she sued me in court because she was addressed.
Kind of true.
Yeah.
Okay, it's hard because also Scheana's like, I didn't want anyone to know where I lived, but she also does these other things where she's like, I met up with Ariana and her friends, and I said they could hang out at my house because paparazzi were staking out her house. But then we met up at a restaurant and the paparazzi chased us there. And so I was like running away from the paparazzi with Summer Moon. And I'm like, why did you bring Summer Moon to this like press fest?
So basically they're trying to escape from this Mexican restaurant and get back to Scheana's apartment without any of the paparazzi noticing. And they figure out a way to do it because Scheana goes through the back with Summer. Thankfully, Summer and I were able to slip out through the kitchen and then the back door and into the alley behind the restaurant while everyone else used the front door. I carried Summer the whole way and tried to make it like an adventure for her. I said, we're just walking a different route home. It'll be fun. I tried to act like
I bet
Summer did
you were
not
successful. I bet it was a huge success.
Finally, I reconnected with Ariana and her friends on a street corner, and we returned to my complex safely, where we hung out for the rest of the night. Still, as grateful as I was to be sheltered and safely away from the prying eyes of those cameras, I broke down in tears. And my empathetic daughter was looking at me with such a sad face that my heart was breaking. Yes, I understood that the infidelity had happened to Ariana, not me, but being stalked by paparazzi when you're with your child is extremely unnerving, especially for a person who's already struggling.
Okay, Tori. She's like, why would the paparazzi leave me alone? I was hoping to prove that I was an integral part of this scandal so that I could get on season 11. Anyway.
So then the big problem is they have to film the reunion, which is the next week, and there's no way for them. Like, I guess the deal is once you file a temporary restraining order, like you cannot undo it for a full week, which makes sense. I understand why that's the law, but there was no way for them to film together the reunion. So that's why they did that thing where they had to put them in separate trailers.
Also, Raquel is trying to performatively say that she dropped the restraining order or like come to a settlement with Scheana. And Sheena's not really working with her on it because she's like,
I didn't do anything wrong.
I didn't do anything wrong. And also it doesn't matter because even if you drop it, it still doesn't dissolve in time for the reunion. So it like doesn't do anything other than make you look like you forgave me for my violence, but I didn't do any violence. So then Scheana keeps getting called performative for the way that she's dealing with this restraining order thing. Can I say she's not performing anything? She is drama.
Ironically, when I showed up with my attorney to my scheduled court hearing to hopefully put this nightmare behind me once and for all, Raquel and her team stated that I was the one being performative. Excuse me, was I performing? When the stress of this case whittled me below 110 pounds, a weight I hadn't seen on the scale since I'd battled anorexia in my early 20s, was I performing? When my empathetic daughter mimicked my cries? When I sat outside a nail salon in the valley waiting for a paparazzo to come find me so that I could candidly deliver a prepared statement? Oh, that's right.
Okay,
There is nothing performative about clearing your name.
The thing is, I agree with her, but there is something dramatic about it. Like, she's not performing.
Well, can I say, I don't think she's performing, but I do think she's accurately reflecting how she feels, and how she feels is the result of like a deep self-centeredness.
Exactly.
That is delusional in the hope that she will be famous. I think she's always looking for evidence that she is very famous, and that makes her a very self-centered person.
She is not like putting anything on. She is accurately depicting her own belief that she is important. At one point, Tom calls her and tries to get her to admit that she punched Raquel. And Scheana is sitting there being like, I think he was being a good friend, trying to really get to the bottom of it, to like warn me that they were going to find evidence. I'm like, Scheana, he was recording that phone call, you dumbass. Scheana, you are so stupid.
She said like ever since then, her and Tom they're not friends, but they're cordial. She recently saw him at a Vanderpump Dog Foundation gala, and we said a quick hello.
I'm sorry, I've never heard more of a setup in my entire fucking life. And
yeah, he threatens, he goes, they're going to find CCTV to prove that you punched her. So if you did, you just can come clean now and reach an agreement and a settlement.
He's like, you can really tell me right now. Just tell me right now that you did it. And she's like, he had my back, I think.
But what's important is on that same evening, I realized that my relationship with Lisa Vanderpump had diminished too.
She took a picture with Kyle Richards.
And I guess, yeah, she took a photo with Kyle Richards at the Kathy Hilton Christmas party. And so now, since then, Lisa Vanderpump has refused to take photos with Scheana. She just keeps being like, go hang out with your friend Kyle Richards.
Lisa, you're crazy. And Scheana, I feel, is right with this one, where she's like, what do you mean I like did your bidding for 10 years and now you won't even take a selfie with me?
The brief communication I had with her involved her berating me for why Lala hadn't attended, to which I responded, well, I'm here. She snarled back, as you should be. All those years that I'd been a good little soldier, apparently one photo with her nemesis was all it took to unravel me into an enemy. The upheaval to my inner circle during this period in my life shook me to my core. Unfortunately, the worst was yet to come.
I wish that Scheana took these like messages as note that like being a quote unquote people pleaser / doormat like doesn't actually do anything for anybody. Like you are not getting yourself in favor with anybody. Like you're not creating a life for yourself.
Somebody like Lisa Vanderpump that's going to be so like blatantly using you to do her bidding, you're worthless to her the minute you stop doing it. There's no amount of doing somebody's bidding that makes them see you as an equal and a friend.
Like you're never building up goodwill. You're only as useful as you are in that moment.
And especially when you like prove to be so useful, because then they think of you, you solidify yourself as being thought of as a used person.
Yeah. Okay, so then there's rumors going around that Brock was cheating on Scheana, and there's rumors that he cheated with Raquel, and she's like, oh my God, that would be so fucking crazy. But like, would it be that crazy? Because everyone was lying to my face.
So finally, they're about to watch New Jersey Housewives, and Brock told me to put down the remote because he had to tell me something. And at first I thought he was joking, but it turns out that when she was pregnant with Mini Scheana.
Yeah.
Scheana the second.
Yeah.
When she was pregnant with Summer Moon, he had an affair with a woman he met at an F45 gym.
At his F45 gym.
She was so upset that she threw a Rubik's Cube at him. And to this day, she can't look at a Rubik's Cube or even think about F45.
Dang.
So they had this affair, and he says this because he felt so insecure about becoming a father again. And I'm like, yeah, well, maybe you should have. And the better way to like deal with those insecurities was not to cheat on your pregnant wife. But basically, he gives her this letter he had written a year before detailing everywhere they hooked up, like every detail of the affair. And he had been drunk when he wrote it. So she said it was riddled with like errors and spelling mistakes. And she was like, that made me feel like it was even more careless. Like he didn't even care enough to give me a good apology. So she burns the letter and doesn't tell anybody because she doesn't want anyone to know. And then she's like, I was jealous of Ariana because even though what happened to her sucked, she's like, at least there wasn't like a legal contract they had to dissolve and a child to think about. And I'm like, well, they were like bound by that house.
Yeah. I think a house is easier than a baby.
Yeah. Well, is it easier than a marriage? I guess, I don't know. Scheana's already been divorced once.
I think house and marriage are pretty equal. I think baby.
Yeah, no, the baby I'll give her. But I'm saying the way that she's like, there was nothing for them to untangle. And I'm like, I think they lived together for a year.
They might still. I don't know. I mean, I think Ariana had to buy that house out like 7 times over. I think Ariana spent $10 million on a valley house.
I'll never forget how during that time, Brock was quote unquote afraid to have sex with me, or he simply didn't want to. That did a number on my anxiety, and it killed my confidence the way I can't even describe. Dude, so he was like not having sex with her and being like, I'm afraid to have sex with you while you're pregnant, and meanwhile like having an affair.
Okay. She like really talks about how Ariana had always had like a penchant for being able to tell when Scheana was upset. And so she's like, if she had asked, are you okay? I would have explained to her what happened, but she never asked. So I never told her.
I see both sides. Because on the one hand, I do understand that Sheena's like, okay, a lot has been about you. And I do think like it sucks that she got cheated on. But like, I guess so did Scheana. And like Ariana got 2 years in a TV show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand where Scheana's like, okay, are you ever going to be like, and how are you doing? Because she got so much press and publicity right out the gate that she's like, she was so busy that we kind of like drifted apart. And I get that would be hurtful to feel like your best friend is too big time for you. But also I'm like, I don't know, maybe you guys really weren't that close. You were just colleagues. And then once you weren't coworkers anymore, I guess my feeling is if she had quit the show under different circumstances, I wonder how close they would have stayed.
Yeah, I agree.
What the fuck do Scheana and Ariana have in common?
Yeah, I also feel like it's hard because I do see how they grew apart. I see how it would be tough for Scheana to be like, when you got cheated on, you got Love Island.
Yeah. And when I got cheated on, I had to like swallow it because of her pride.
Because she's very proud. But I also am like, what if you had tried to talk to her? Because she's like, I was waiting for her to guess. And I am like, that's tough because you just said she's so busy.
She said she ran into a friend who got cheated on in Vegas. And she's like, if you get cheated on, hold on to your marriage. And she's like, that really made me feel better about the fact that I actually made my marriage work even after he cheated on me.
Yeah. Also, her and Michelle from the Valley really bonded over
staying with a man that cheats on you.
Yeah. So then she gets into the way it leaked. The news got out there. There were a lot of rumors about Brock cheating on her, I will say. And she puts the blame on
the ghostwriter of this book, who we actually happen to know. And I will say, in her defense,
she's a vault.
So at the end of this chapter, she's like, basically, this is something I never told anybody. And then I decided to put in this book to be brave. And when I was shopping this book around and going to different publishers, the next day there was a blind item and clearly it had been leaked. And she's like, I tried to figure out who did it. But when I accused my ghostwriter and sent her a stronger NDA, she like blocked me on Instagram and said that she wanted to stop working with me. And that basically says that she's guilty. I don't know, Scheana, you just walked into a bunch of corporate rooms with a lot of people and said, my husband cheated on me, and that's going to be like the big banger of this book. I don't think it was your ghostwriter who had known this information for probably over a year already. And I really feel like it's fucked up to make that accusation. Also, you're saying, like, I don't know, you're saying it in the book. Like, what is your beef? And she's like, so I had to tell my mom. And I was like, well, it was going to come out. You put it in a goddamn book.
Yeah. Anyway, so then she talks about staying with Brock, how he probably wants more kids, but she would never get pregnant again because of how hard her first pregnancy was on her. And I am like, you actually don't have to have more kids.
She's like, well, he's a lot younger than me, so he's going to want more kids eventually. I'm like, well, he already has 2. Let's start there.
He already has 2 other kids.
What if he recycles the ones he already made?
Yeah, start over with those ones. Go meet them fresh and act like they're new.
The fact is, marriage isn't easy. It's hard work every single day.
Oh.
I know. Okay, I'm married. I don't have a kid. I am like, it's almost never hard.
I feel like it can be hard sometimes.
It could. Yeah, I think there's like an amount of hard that's worth it. I do think if it's hard every single day and you like have only been married for 2 years, Brock and I are 2 extremely different people. Sometimes it seems like we have completely opposite outlooks on life.
She talks about helping him understand her OCD. At first, it made no sense to him. And I'm like, well, surely it could have made some sense. What do you mean it made no sense to him? He seems really disrespectful.
She's worried about Summer because Summer already shows like OCD tendencies and is very a perfectionist and gets very upset easily. This is actually, I called this as a very Tori Spelling type thing to say. Recently, my OCD presented itself when I did a show called The Masked Singer on Fox, where disguised celebrities sing songs and get voted off. I was freaking out because I had to wear a bat costume and perform in front of millions of viewers. I'd never worn that kind of costume with a full headpiece, and I thought I was going to be claustrophobic because my mother is. Thankfully, I discovered that I'm not. Another win.
1 for Scheana, 0 for claustrophobia.
Well, they got the mom, so 1 for Scheana, 1 for the claustrophobia.
Oh, she also doesn't get any money from Good as Gold. She just sings it on TV because she loves it.
She signed away all the rights to an entertainment lawyer that her manager got her, who was also his lawyer. And she's like, looking back, I probably shouldn't have done that. And she goes, I don't even have a copy of the documents I signed. So I don't even know if it's true that I signed them away. They just told me I did. I've come a long way and I'm not stopping anytime soon. I'm embracing all sides of me that are good, from the scars to the scarlet letters, though I still prefer to be photographed on the left.
Scheana.
You know what's crazy? Tom Sandoval had to give her money during COVID because she was pregnant and had $0 in her bank account. How has she done all of this and to nothing?
I bet you she like signed away the rights to this book to like Michael Shay.
I love that she kept that name.
It sounds so good. Can I say Scheana Shay?
Thoughts?
Oh, Scheana.
How many warm teenies would you like to have with Scheana?
Okay.
10.
A lot.
I want to go out. We'd probably make out. She'll make out with like any girl.
How fertile. I also think, listen, I don't think there's a single question anyone could have about Scheana Shay that was not answered in this book.
I also feel it's such a good in-depth look at who she is that I can answer any questions going forward. Like this is what you would use to model a ChatGPT and create a Scheana bot. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like all of the answers to her past, present, and future selves are in this book.
Yeah.
I don't think she's going to change or grow.
It's all there.
Well, who's good as gold?
Thank you so much to our gorgeous golden commenters on Spotify. Thank you to Kelly Metz. Ugh, I wish we could Metz in real life. Thank you to Sticky Woo. I'd let you woo me any day with comments like these. Thank you, Jazz Jalapeno. Oh, this comment is hot, hot, hot. And thank you, DJ Alex Zaki. Oh, I adore your remixes in the comment section every time.